Good morning, gamers.
Hello.
Did any of you watch the Keystone Masters beta tournament this weekend? If you didn't see it, that's okay, but something that was really interesting to me was the use of both Subtlety and Outlaw Rogue in Mythic Plus dungeons. Some teams chose to both run Outlaw on the same key, and other teams chose to oppose each other with one team running Subtlety and the other team running Outlaw. Which brings up a good point of something that I've been thinking of for a while now of which spec will be better for Mythic Plus, Subtlety or Outlaw. Or that one spec that apparently got removed in Shadowlands. But after running keys on both Outlaw and Subtlety over the course of the beta, here are my thoughts. Let's start by breaking down the advantages of each spec specifically in Mythic Plus without going into the obvious utility that rogues bring like Shroud and Sap and Shiv, etc. Starting with Outlaw. Outlaw really shines when there are smaller packs of 2 to 5 targets since they have their golden button Blade Flurry. And with the new change to Blade Flurry and its synergy with Restless Blades, Outlaw can maintain a very high uptime of cleave and trash packs. And Restless Blades itself is a huge strength of Outlaw because it plays into all of Outlaw's important cooldowns such as Adrenaline Rush, Roll the Bones, Blade Rush, a talent I've been running in most keys for Mythic Plus, as well as Restless Blades' synergy with Mark for Death. But the primary benefit of Restless Blades is that you have cooldowns much more frequently for hard pulls or bosses. And it doesn't really feel like you have dead spots where you either can't do much damage or don't want to do a lot of damage because you're trying to save a cooldown for the next pull. Now with that being said, once you start getting past 5 or so targets and trash packs, you can start to see your damage taper off unless you're able to get a bunch of Blade Rush casts out. But even then, you'll see Outlaw start to fall behind Subtlety. So while Outlaw has its strengths of being good and lower target cleave and quick cooldowns, and sustainable damage while also being able to be bursty, things start to become gray once you get to larger pulls or single target fights, which leads me into Subtlety strengths. Subtlety does amazing on single target or priority target fights where you just want to dump as much damage into one target as possible. And when they get put into large ad pull situations, they can really start to shine unless you compare them to like Fire Mage or something. Subtlety's cooldown Shadow Blades provides an amazing burst of damage that if timed properly can be lined up for large trash pulls or boss fights. And the addition of the new finisher Black Powder fills a hole that Subtlety had in its rotation for AoE. The current gray areas or weaknesses of Subtlety start to show during low target cleave of 2 to 4 targets, and Subtlety also doesn't seem to mesh well with compositions that rely heavily on the sub-rogue to do most of the AoE damage, since it forces them to sometimes use their Shadow Blades at inopportune times. So which one's better for Mythic Plus? I know you're all going to hate this answer, but it honestly depends, and before you click off the video, I promise I'll go into detail. Right now, at the end of the beta, aka the Shadowlands launch build, both Outlaw and Subtlety are very viable in Mythic Plus. And my initial assumption when I first tried Outlaw and Subtlety on the beta for the first time was Outlaw will be your fortified weak spec and Subtlety will be your tyrannical weak spec. But I'm starting to realize that I was wrong in that assumption. In my opinion, the decision between the two specs will come down to 2 things: the dungeon itself and what composition the rogue is running with. From a generalized outlook of the Shadowlands dungeons, I think Outlaw is the better pick overall for Mythic Plus, especially in dungeons that have smaller mob density or require you to pull smaller packs. However, if you take into consideration group composition and high optimization of Mythic Plus, Subtlety definitely has its place amongst the meta. DPS compositions such as Mage, Hunter, and Rogue feel like they favor Subtlety more since the Mage and Hunter can carry the weight of most of the ad pulls, and the Rogue can supplement focus target damage on hard trash mobs while also being able to provide high damage for large pulls or boss fights. So at the moment with the latest beta build, which is supposed to be the launch build for Shadowlands, I'd say you could safely play whichever spec you enjoy more or are more comfortable with in Mythic Plus. But if you're pushing keys at a very high level, it's going to come down to which dungeons you're running and using Rogue strengths of being able to fill the holes of the weaknesses that your team is leaving behind. And as for our friends that play Assassination Rogue, I'm not sure where Sin is going to fall in terms of the meta for Mythic Plus, mainly because I didn't really get to try it out too much on the beta, and when I did try it, it just kind of felt clunky and it didn't really feel like it had its place. But what I can say is that I do hope Assassination is at least viable, so rogues have another option to fill in more weakness spots in their team's compositions. So if you've played the beta, which spec of rogue do you think's the best? I think Outlaw and Keys can be really fun since they're much more fast paced. And when I run Subtlety with an AoE heavy group, I have a really good time because I can pace out my cooldowns more efficiently. Shadowlands is basically here and it's going to be an extremely busy week for me, so sorry if I don't get another video out next Saturday. But don't count one out just yet because it might happen. I do plan on streaming most of my leveling experience over on my Twitch channel, so if you do want to drop by and hang out, feel free. As always, if you need someone to talk to, you can reach out to me on Twitter or Discord, or drop by one of my Twitch streams and I'd be more than happy to talk with you. JoJo and I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch our video, and we hope you have a great day. Goodbye.